Okay, let's just briefly summarize what we did. At the last couple of videos, we only talked about categorical data or qualitative data, and we had two kinds of categorical data: a nominal one, which was the geographical region of a country in the World Bank Development Indicators database, and the income group. The income group is an ordinal and the region is a nominal categorical variable. So the first thing that we did is what you see here. It's a frequency table, and we typically display frequencies and cumulative frequencies, and then relative frequencies and cumulative relative frequencies, or if you prefer the percentage writing, you can also use percentage frequencies and cumulative percentage frequencies. Then we looked at a column chart, and what's important in a column chart is that by default, or not by default, it's not a law, but it's a good practice to display data from highest to lowest frequency, and that is what we did for the frequencies within the categories of regions. So among the 217 countries, there were 58 in Europe and Central Asia and 48 in Sub-Saharan Africa, and so on. Then we did the same thing in a bar chart. There is no golden rule for when to use a bar chart and when to use a column chart. They are very similar. Sometimes a bar chart might be a little bit better if you also have negative values and you want to illustrate if maybe something is more in the positive or in the negative. So let's say if you had data on the budget of a government, that can be either a surplus or a deficit. So then a bar chart might be more useful, because if you sort them by highest surplus to biggest deficit, that will give you a nice visualization in a bar chart, much better than the column chart. So we did a bar chart, then the next one was a pie chart. Again, pie charts are not particularly popular among data scientists. They are just more difficult to read and interpret. Typically you have to first look into a pie and then associate the color with an entry in a legend. And even if you have the category in the pie as well, it becomes difficult to immediately identify an order. So they are not as convenient as column chart or bar chart. If you want to describe categorical data, preferably I would recommend you just stay with a column chart or a bar chart. Then we talked about the Pareto chart. A Pareto chart is first a column chart and sorted from highest to lowest frequency, and then on top of that you also display the cumulative percentage or cumulative relative frequency in a second column. And then, if you want to see, for example, in our example, where do you have 70% of all the countries, we can go to 70% and we go left, and as soon as we hit the cumulative frequency, we see that in fact 85% of all the countries can be found in Latin America, Sub-Saharan Africa, or Europe and Central Asia. So that would be a Pareto chart. And the last thing that we did was to introduce a crosstab. A crosstab shows the relationship between two categorical variables. So here we illustrated how many countries that are classified as high income, low middle income, or upper middle income can be found in East Asia and the Pacific or other regions. And then we did the same thing with respect to percentage frequencies. So that is pretty much all. It's not all that you can do, but those are the most important graphical visualizations that you should know. There are obviously more to it, but for an introduction that should be enough. And beginning with the next video, we start talking about tabular and graphical descriptives of quantitative data.